They say Halloween is just one night of harmless fun, costumes, candy, and laughter echoing down the streets. Halloween isn't about tricks or treats, it's about survival, because behind every smiling mask, something real waits to come out. Welcome to 7 disturbing true Halloween horror stories where every tale you about to hear actually happened. These aren't ghost campfire stories. These are the moments when ordinary people found themselves face to face with something so dark, so unexplainable, that even years later, they refuse to talk about it in the daylight. On this night, the boundary between the living and the dead grows thin. Doors creak open on their own, shadows move where no one stands. And sometimes, the knock at your door isn't a kid looking for candy, but something else entirely, something that remembers you from a Halloween long ago. Some of these stories come from police reports, others from forum posts that vanished overnight, and a few from people who were never seen again after that one Halloween night. You'll hear of a small-town party that turned into a nightmare, a trick-or-treater who shouldn't have existed, and a mask that seemed to breathe even after being taken off. So before we begin, lock your doors, turn off the lights, and remember, what you're about to hear isn't fiction. Every scream, every shadow, every horrifying detail is based on true accounts of people who never thought their Halloween would end this way. This is Scary Dark Narrations, and tonight, we invite you to face the truth hiding behind the mask. Brace yourself for 7 disturbing true Halloween horror stories. I still remember that Halloween night. The air was cold enough to sting my lungs, and the sky had that deep orange haze that only comes once a year. I must have been around 8, maybe 9. My mom dropped me off at my friend Sean's house after school. I remember waving goodbye as her car disappeared down the street, her taillights glowing like 2 tiny embers fading into the dusk. Sean's house always smelled faintly of cats and old carpet. His older sister answered the door that night, barely looking at me before turning back toward the living room. She never smiled, never really talked to me either. Sean and I met up with our friend Johnny, who was already there with his pillowcase ready for candy. They were both a year older, which at that age made them seem like experts in everything. We'd planned this night for weeks. No parents, no curfew, just us and the whole neighborhood waiting behind glowing jack-o'-lanterns. Johnny told anyone who asked that our moms were up ahead with his sister, which somehow worked every single time. As the sun dipped behind the houses, we started our route. The first hour was pure excitement. Kids in masks, laughing parents, the smell of pumpkin candles. My hands were sticky from chocolate bars, and my pillowcase was already half full. We stopped for pizza at Sean's afterward, sitting cross-legged on the carpet. Nickelodeon blaring from an old TV, Johnny's mom picked him up around 8, leaving just Sean and me. We wanted more, always more, so we headed back out into the night. By then, the streets were nearly empty. Most porch lights had gone dark. A thin layer of mist had begun to roll across the sidewalks, making every distant shape look a little off. Remember thinking how quiet it had become, the kind of silence that hums in your ears. That's when I noticed him. A man walking slowly behind us. He was pushing a stroller, the kind with a folding hood pulled all the way forward so you couldn't see the baby inside. His steps were steady but slow, the stroller wheels creaking softly over the cracks in the pavement. I told myself he was just a dad heading home after a long night. But something about the way he walked, deliberate, almost rehearsed, made my stomach twist. He got closer, then closer still. We could hear him humming a low, tuneless murmur, broken up by shushing sounds. When he finally spoke, his voice was gentle. "How's the trick-or-treating going, boys?" we both said. "Good," trying to sound casual. He smiled, his teeth catching a flash from a passing car. "It's getting late," he said softly. "I'm heading home myself, but I've got a whole bag of candy left. My little girl fell asleep before I could hand any out. You boys can have it if you want." Sean's eyes lit up. "What kind?" he asked. "All kinds," the man replied, patting a plastic bag hanging from the stroller handle. "Just up the road. My house is right there." He pointed toward a dark stretch of the street where only one porch light flickered. We followed him, hesitant at first, then faster as he picked up the pace. I kept glancing around, realizing the neighborhood had emptied completely. No more voices, no more laughter. Just the sound of that stroller creaking in rhythm with our footsteps. He talked as we walked, asked what school we went to, what we dressed up as. I barely answered. My heart was beating faster than I wanted to admit. Every few steps, he'd bend toward the stroller and whisper something in that same soft, high-pitched tone like a parent soothing a fussy child. When we reached his house, he rolled the stroller up a short concrete path and unlocked the front door. He pushed it open and waved us in. "Come on, boys. I'll grab the candy for you." Sean stepped inside first. I hesitated in the doorway, my hands still on the knob. "Can we, leave the door open?" I asked. The man paused for a moment, too long, then nodded. "Of course," he said. "She's just asleep. I'll be right back." He pushed the stroller into the living room. It stopped about 10 feet from us. I could hear the faint tick of a clock somewhere deeper in the house. That's when Sean moved closer. He reached for the stroller's hood, curiosity getting the better of him. I whispered, "Don't," but he'd already lifted it. Then he froze. His face went pale, mouth slightly open, eyes wide but unfocused. He turned toward me and whispered, "Let's go." Then silence swallowed everything. Sean didn't wait for me. He bolted full sprint toward the door, pillowcase of candy bouncing against his leg. I followed, my shoes slipping on the porch steps as I tried to keep up. The cold air hit my face like ice as we ran. Behind us, the front door creaked open again. Neither of us looked back. We just ran, street after street, until our legs burned and our breaths came in ragged gasps. Finally, we stopped near a corner, under a flickering street lamp. "What did you see?" I asked between breaths. Sean shook his head, trembling. It wasn't real," he said. "It was fake." "What do you mean fake?" He swallowed hard, voice cracking. "The baby. It wasn't a baby, it was like a doll." But it was. He didn't finish. Before I could ask again, a woman's voice called from down the street. "Hey, you boys okay?" We turned. A neighbor was jogging toward us, holding a flashlight. She'd seen us running from the house. "Do you know that man?" she asked. We both shook our heads. Sean stammered out what happened, the candy, the stroller, the baby that wasn't a baby. The woman's expression darkened immediately. "That man doesn't have a child," she said firmly. "I've lived here for 15 years. He lives alone." My chest went tight. My hands started to shake. Yes, she took us to her car, saying it was safer than walking. Remember how quiet it felt inside, the hum of the engine blending with my heartbeat. She drove me home first. When my mom opened the door, her face shifted from confusion to terror in an instant. She listened as the woman explained, her hand clutching my shoulder the entire time. When I told her everything, every detail, she sent me straight to my room. I could still hear her voice downstairs, low and frantic, talking to the police. Then my dad's voice. Then silence again. They never told me what came of it. Not the investigation, not the man, nothing. For a while, I couldn't sleep without picturing that stroller, the way it rocked slightly even when no one touched it. The way the man smiled when he talked to it as if he was waiting for something inside to answer back. Years later, I asked my mom about that night. She wouldn't meet my eyes. All she said was, "Don't think about it. It's over." But it never really was, because sometimes on Halloween nights, when the streetlights flicker and the neighborhood goes quiet, I swear I hear that sound again, the slow, rhythmic creak of a stroller's wheels rolling just behind me. Would you dare follow the man with the fake baby? It started like any other Halloween night except for that feeling, that strange, heavy quiet that settles before something goes wrong. My parents were out that evening, leaving me in charge of handing out candy. I didn't mind. We lived in a cul-de-sac, quiet, tucked away, the kind of place where even trick-or-treaters forgot existed. My mom had gone overboard, buying so many candy bags that I knew I'd be eating leftovers for weeks. I'd been trying to lose weight then, but who was I kidding? The day was ordinary. I'd gone to the gym in the morning, worked on some college assignments, and by late afternoon, I was waiting for the doorbell to start ringing. Around 4:30 it began, that cheerful chorus of ding-dong, followed by tiny voices shouting, "Trick or treat." It was normal. Kids dressed as superheroes and princesses laughing, parents waving from the sidewalk. My dog, Vito, barked like a maniac every time the bell rang. It was a tiny rat terrier with a bark too big for his size. I kept handing out candy hour after hour. By 8 p.m., it had gone quiet. Monday night, kids had school the next morning. I shut off the porch light, reheated some of my mom's stew, and went upstairs to my room, turned on Game of Thrones, and lost myself in that world of dragons and betrayal. Time slipped away until I heard it. I looked at the clock. It's 9:30. Too late for trick-or-treaters. Vito barked again, sharp and frantic. My chest tightened. I muted the TV, waited a moment, then crept downstairs. Through the frosted glass of our storm door, I saw a shape, tall, still waiting. It wasn't a kid. When I got closer, I saw the costume, a clown, but not the funny kind. The mask was grotesque, exaggerated smile carved too wide, eyes hollow and dark. He held up a brown paper bag and pointed to it. I didn't open the door. I just said through the glass, "Sorry, no candy left," and shut it fast. Locked it. Something about the way he moved. Too slow, too deliberate. My skin crawled. I stood by the door, listening. No footsteps, no leaving. But then, Vito went berserk, scooped him up, heart pounding, and turned off every light in the house. Maybe if it looked empty, he'd give up. I carried Vito upstairs and closed us inside my room. The house went still. I texted my family group chat. There's a guy in a clown costume at the door. Won't leave. No reply. Then came the sound. The latch of the storm door breaking. Someone forcing their way in. I froze at the top of the stairs, listening as the front door rattled. A hollow knock. Then the knob twisting. I couldn't move. Couldn't even breathe. My fingers shook as I called my brother. He picked up, whispering. He was out with a girl. "It's just a prank," he said. "Ignore it." I wanted to believe him. I sat there in the dark, waiting for silence. Minutes dragged. Then finally it stopped. I waited longer, then even longer. Still nothing. The house stayed still. My chest loosened. Maybe it really was a prank. I crawled back into bed. Vito curled beside me, his tiny body trembling. I turned off the TV. The room sank into blackness. And then, silence swallowed everything. I must have fallen asleep, though I don't remember closing my eyes. What woke me wasn't a sound, not exactly. It was Vito's growl. Low, uneasy, his body stiff, ears perked. At first, I told him to quiet down. But then I heard it too. Faint rhythmic tapping. Not the door, the window. My heart skipped. My room was on the second floor. I turned my head toward the sound. Soft scrape like fingers dragging across glass. My breath caught. That's impossible, I thought. There's no ledge out there. Nothing to stand on. I got up slowly, my knees weak. Pulled the blind cord. Just a little. Just enough to peek. And there he was. The clown. Face pressed against the window. Mask distorted by the glass, fogged with his breath. The painted grin looked alive, teeth glinting in the moonlight. He tilted his head like he was listening. My scream ripped out before I even knew I was making it. Vito barked once, sharp and high, but I didn't wait. I grabbed my phone and bolted down the hall into my parents' room, slamming the door and locking it. My fingers shook so hard I could barely dial 911. The operator answered, calm to calm. "There's someone at my window," I gasped. "He's wearing a clown mask. He climbed to the second floor, please." She told me help was on the way. I could barely hear her over my own heartbeat. Every sound became sharper. The creak of floorboards downstairs. The whisper of wind through the vent. Then something heavy scraped against the siding outside.
Out.
He wasn't gone. I whispered into the phone. "He's still here. I think he's climbing down." "Stay where you are," she said. "Don't move." Minutes stretched into forever. My whole body trembled. Every second felt like a lifetime. Finally, headlights washed across the window, flashing blue and red. I ran downstairs when I heard voices. 2 officers at the door, flashlights cutting through the dark. They searched the yard, the porch, the side of the house. Then one of them called me over. "Did you use this ladder tonight?" he asked. My dad's ladder, pulled out from the storage shed. Leaning right beneath my window, he must have gone inside our yard. Walked past the side gate, climbed up just 2. Watch me. The officers didn't find anyone, just footprints in the damp dirt, big ones. They said it was probably a Halloween prank, told me to lock up and get some rest. But when they left, I stood by the window, staring into the dark yard below. The grass moved slightly, like something crouched just out of sight. Watching, I shut the blinds and lay back in bed, every light off except the glow from my phone. I kept scrolling, refreshing the police scanner app, trying to convince myself it was over, and then Vito lifted his head again, staring toward the window. Growling softly, I didn't move, didn't breathe. The phone buzzed in my hand, a new message from an unknown number. It read, "You forgot to give me candy." Then silence swallowed everything. Again, "Would you dare open that door next Halloween?" The night air carried that unmistakable Halloween charge, cold, sharp, and expectant, like static before a storm. I remember laughing with my friends in Shauna's living room, the scent of cheap vodka and pumpkin candles hanging in the air. We were 4 girls in our early 20s, dressed for a party that didn't yet exist. Every bar, every event, every ticketed party was sold out. Then Kate, bold, reckless Kate, posted on her story, "Anyone got a house party tonight?" I thought it was desperate, shameless even. But 10 minutes later, she got a message from some guy named Luke. Said he was throwing a party 1 town over. He sent her an address, some rules, indoor only, bring your own booze, 1 girl per guy. Basic stuff still, something about it felt off. Too organized for a random college kid? When Kate said people we knew were going, that hesitation melted away.
Ow.
We wanted the night to start. By 10, we were in an Uber, music pounding, makeup glowing under passing streetlights. The closer we got to the address, the quieter the driver got. "You sure this is the right place?" he muttered when we pulled up. The house loomed at the end of a long suburban street, big, white, empty-looking. But there were cars parked everywhere. Voices. A low pulse of bass. We stepped out, heels clicking on the cold driveway. My breath fogged as I looked up. No porch light, just dim orange glow leaking through curtains. We didn't even knock. The door was unlocked. Inside, it was darker than I expected. Strings of orange bulbs, fake cobwebs, red Solo cups on every surface. The air smelled of sweat, beer, and something sweet underneath. We didn't recognize a single face. Kate texted our guy friends to see if they were there yet. That's when a man approached us. Older, maybe 50, smiling too wide. "Welcome, welcome. You must be Kate, and..." He paused, looking me up and down. "You're friends of Luke, right?" "I'm his dad." John. His dad. That should have been my first red flag. But he was friendly too. Friendly. He led us into the kitchen, told us to toss our drinks in the coolers. The coolers were already packed with cans and bottles, sweating in the ice. He laughed when we hesitated. "Go ahead. It's a party, isn't it?" He offered us shots tequila, poured them himself. "To Halloween," he said, raising his glass. The liquor burned my throat. I winced. No lime, no salt, just that raw bite. The music pulsed harder, but it felt distant, like I was underwater. John drifted from girl to girl, smiling, touching shoulders, filling cups. Always filling cups. Every time I looked, he was handing someone something to drink. Our guy friends texted on the way. Relief washed over me. Maybe then I could relax. I played beer pong with a couple of random dudes, laughing too loud, trying to ignore the odd weight in the air. Every once in a while I caught John staring from the kitchen, still smiling, still mixing drinks. When he brought me a vodka soda, I took it just to be polite. The cup was sticky, cold. I drank slow. Then, things blurred. The lights seemed dimmer, the music thicker. My head started to buzz, not the usual drunk kind. A fog settled behind my eyes. I remember Kate saying something about feeling weird, her words slurring. Someone bumped into me and suddenly the room was spinning. I tried to find my phone, my hand wouldn't stay steady. I remember John's voice, right next to me. "You okay, sweetheart?" His hand on my back. Then nothing. Just flashes blue lights outside. My friends' panicked faces. Cold air rushing as we stumbled out the door. And then, silence swallowed everything. I woke up in a car, someone's back seat. The world was tilting. My head pounded with this sick, dizzy pulse, and my mouth tasted like metal. We were parked outside my house. Shauna's voice was soft, shaking. "You're home, babe. You're safe." I wasn't safe. I could feel it. My body was heavy, my stomach cold. A guy friend walked me to my door, his voice distant, hollow. I think I mumbled a thank you. My parents were asleep. I went straight to my room, collapsed on my bed. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The messages blurred in the dark. "You look so cute tonight. Where did my favorite girls go? You left something here. I'm coming to your house. I'm here. Can you come to the door? Hello? Are you awake?" My breath caught. The last message was at 2:04 a.m. I checked the window. The street was empty. No car, no sound. But I knew he'd been here. In the morning, sunlight did nothing to help. My head still swam. My skin itched. The texts were still there. I sent screenshots to the group chat. My friends responded instantly. "He texted you too?" No one knew who he really was. No one had met Luke. Not one person. Then Shauna said something that made my blood freeze. When we left, there was no furniture in that house. I remembered the emptiness. Just beer pong tables, a few coolers, and that dim orange light. A vacant house filled with strangers. We went to the police station that afternoon. The cop behind the counter looked exhausted. "Is this about the vacant house party last night?" he asked. My heart sank. "Vacant," I repeated. He nodded. "Neighbors called it in." "That house has been empty for months. The detective's office smelled like stale coffee. I told him everything, the man, the drinks, the texts. He wrote it all down, asked for the number." I watched him frown. "This is a VIP," he said. "Fake. Can't trace it without a warrant." I felt sick. I asked what that meant. He sighed. "Means whoever it was. They're gone. Gone, but not far enough." For days, I couldn't sleep. Every night, I swore I heard footsteps outside. Slow and deliberate. My phone would buzz with no caller ID, always around 2 a.m. Never a message, just that silent reminder that he still had my number, that he could find my address. And sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I saw his smile again, the dim orange light glinting off his teeth, his voice echoing. "It's a party, isn't it?" Weeks passed, the police never called, no arrests, no updates, just silence, until tonight. My phone buzzed again, same fake number. One message. "Let's throw another party. Would you dare return to that house?" Halloween weekend always felt like a ritual in our house, not just for fun, but for competition. My mom treated it like a sacred event, obsessing over cobwebs, animatronics, and orange lights until our yard looked like a movie set. That year it fell on a Saturday, and she was determined to outdo the neighbors. The clouds hung low and bruised, wind scraping through the dead leaves that clung to our lawn. There was a chance of rain, but she didn't care. She just wanted kids to stop and stare. I remember standing by the window, watching the first few trick-or-treaters hurry past without even glancing at our house. Mom frowned like she'd been insulted. "It's because we didn't put out the attic decorations," she said, her voice sharp. I tried to tell her the weather was killing the turnout, cold drizzle, gray sky, but she wouldn't hear it. She shoved the attic key into my hand and said, "Just bring them down." The attic entrance was in the upstairs hallway, right above my bedroom. When I pulled the cord, the old folding ladder creaked open with a shudder, releasing a gust of stale, dusty air. I climbed up, flashlight in hand. The space smelled like wood rot and insulation, with boxes stacked neatly against the slanted walls. As I reached for the Halloween container, I heard it, a faint crack from the far corner, like a board giving under weight. I froze, flashlight beam cutting across the dusty rafters. "Probably wood settling," I muttered, but something about the sound felt too deliberate. I ignored it and dragged the container toward the opening, careful not to fall. When I got back downstairs, the air smelled like pumpkin candles and wet leaves. Mom was already outside, arranging inflatable ghosts. Her mood brightened. I helped her string lights even as the wind picked up, whispering through the trees. She kept glancing at the street, disappointed by the lack of kids. It made me weirdly sad, her excitement slowly crumbling under gray skies. By dusk, the neighborhood felt abandoned. A few clusters of children scurried by in soggy costumes, but most doors stayed closed. Mom handed out her carefully packed candy bags to the handful that came, smiling through her disappointment. I went upstairs, booted up my laptop, and lost myself in a game, while thunder murmured in the distance. That's when I heard it again. Crack. The exact same sound directly above my room. I looked up at the ceiling, headphones sliding off my ears. The attic was right there, just a few inches of drywall separating me from the darkness above. I brushed it off. Old houses make noises, right? The wind, the rain, out. But when the thunder grew louder, rattling my window, I heard it once more. This time softer, slower, like steps. I paused my game and listened, every muscle tightening. It sounded like someone shifting their weight across the beams. One step, another, then silence. I stood up, opened my door, and stared down the hallway. The attic door was closed tight. Maybe Mom had gone up there again? No, she was downstairs. I could hear the faint chatter of her TV show. I shook off the unease and went back to my desk, telling myself I was imagining things. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Rain poured against the windows in sheets. My parents had gone to bed, the house dim except for the blue glow of my screen. Then a sound that didn't belong. The soft creak of the attic door opening. My heartbeat spiked. I ripped off my headset, every hair on my arms rising. From the hallway came a faint tap. Dot, 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 dot. Tap. Like bare feet stepping on the wooden floorboards. I stood frozen, waiting for Mom's voice. Nothing. Then the refrigerator door opened downstairs. I heard glass clinking, something shifting, a drawer sliding. My throat tightened. Someone was in the kitchen. I moved quietly to my parents' room, nudging the door open. Both of them were asleep. My stomach twisted so hard I nearly gagged. I shook my dad awake, whispering, "Dad, there's someone downstairs." Heard them in the kitchen. He blinked hard, confusion turning to fear. He reached under his bed and pulled out the metal baton he kept for emergencies. "Stay here," he mouthed, then crept into the hallway. Minutes crawled by. Then he came back, eyes wide. His voice was barely a breath. Someone just climbed into the attic. He locked the bedroom door and grabbed his phone. Mom woke up, confused and pale. The three of us huddled there, barely breathing as rain hammered the roof. The silence between the thunder was unbearable. Then, silence swallowed everything. The house felt alive, listening, waiting. Every crack of thunder made me jump. I kept staring at the ceiling, imagining someone crouched above us, their weight bending the beams. Dad whispered to 911, explaining that someone was inside. The dispatcher told us to stay put until officers arrived. It felt like forever. Each second stretched out like a wire ready to snap. Then thud. From the attic. We all heard it. Mom covered her mouth to stifle a gasp. Dad raised a finger for silence, his knuckles white around the baton. I could hear my own pulse in my ears, faster than the rain outside. Another thud, then a dragging sound, slow, deliberate. I couldn't stop picturing it. A man, moving in the dark, crawling over the insulation, directly above my room. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then everything went dim. Mom started praying under her breath. Dad stood at the door, tense, waiting for the sirens. The house was drowning in storm sounds, until suddenly, beneath the thunder, came something else. Footsteps, on the stairs. Dad whispered, "Stay here," but I grabbed his arm. I mouthed. Too late, a loud bang echoed through the house. The attic door slammed shut. Silence that followed was somehow worse than the noise. When the police finally arrived, their flashlights cut through the shadows, beams slicing across the wet floors. One of the officers climbed the attic ladder, while another stood guard below. Minutes passed. A voice called out from above, "Found him." When they brought him down, he didn't fight. He just stared, blank and hollow, his eyes lost somewhere far beyond the present. His clothes were filthy, caked in dust. His hands trembled as they cuffed him. He looked normal, but not right. he spoke in a cracked voice. Door was open, needed a place to sleep. They found a blanket up there, a jar of peanut butter, empty water bottles. The man had been living in our attic for at least 2 days, maybe longer. Mom broke down crying. I couldn't move. The sound of every creak, every whisper from the ceiling over the last week replayed in my mind. Each one a moment he'd been right above me, watching, listening, when the police left. The house felt wrong, like it had been infected. Dad nailed the attic door shut, but I still couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, like someone else was still there. Around 3 a.m. I finally drifted off. Then I heard it. Single crack. From above, my breath caught in my throat. We'd watched them take the man away. We'd sealed the attic door. But there it was again, that slow, heavy sound of wood bending under a step. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, afraid to blink. The next morning, Dad checked the attic again, just to be sure. He came down pale, holding something small and strange. It was a photo, an old water-damaged picture of our house, except it wasn't ours. The siding was different, the yard overgrown. In the window of my bedroom, a shadow stood watching. Dad said maybe the man had found it in the trash or carried it with him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been here before. That somehow, he wasn't just hiding from the world, he'd been coming home. Even now, when the house creaks at night, I still listen, just to make sure it's only the wood. Just to make sure he's gone, but sometimes, I hear it again. Crack. Step. Then silence. Would you dare go up there and see for yourself? Halloween night had always been my favorite, but that year felt different. The air outside my parents' house carried a strange chill, heavier than the October wind. It wasn't just the cold. It was the kind of unease that made your skin tighten, like the night itself was watching. My parents were away for the weekend, and I was 18, old enough to feel invincible, young enough to make bad decisions. They'd given me strict rules. No strangers, keep it clean, no alcohol. Naturally, I bent every single one of them. 50 invitations turned into 40 people actually showing up. Music pulsing through the house. Laughter spilling out into the backyard where glowing pumpkins flickered like dying eyes. Everyone was in costume. Vampires, clowns. And one guy wearing a massive paper-mache horse head that kept knocking into the ceiling fan. The smell of cheap beer and pizza filled the air. I recognized every face. Or at least I thought I did. It was around 9 when my friend Eric came out from the kitchen with a puzzled look. "Who's the guy in the skeleton suit?" he asked. I frowned. Skeleton suit. Yeah, full body suit, black and white. He was inside, looking around. I brushed it off at first. Halloween, right? But something about the way Eric said it. Looking around, it felt wrong. I went inside, weaving through sweaty, laughing guests. In the kitchen, a few people were drinking, faces flushed red from alcohol. "Anyone see a guy in a skeleton costume?" I asked. A girl spoke up without looking away from her drink. "Yeah, he was upstairs, I think. Kinda creepy. Didn't talk." "Upstairs?" My chest tightened. My parents' bedroom was up there, and they're safe. I went to the staircase and froze halfway up as I saw him. A tall man in a tight skeleton bodysuit was coming down the stairs. There's no mask, no fake skull. Just that black and white fabric covering every inch of him, face and all. He moved slowly, deliberately, each step making the wood creak. "Hey," I said. "Who are you?" He stopped halfway down, head tilting slightly, bones painted across the fabric, twisting with the motion. "Mike," he said, voice low, deep, older than any guest here. "Just used the bathroom." There was something off about his tone. To calm, to still. "Who invited you?" I asked. "Tom?" I didn't know a single Tom. "Who's Tom?" I pushed. No response. He just turned, walked past me, and left through the front door without another word. I followed him to the window. The street was empty. No footsteps, no movement. Just the cold hum of the night. I ran upstairs, checking every room. Nothing looked disturbed, drawers still shut, closet closed. When I stepped into my parents' room, I noticed the door latch. It wasn't clicked shut anymore. I knew I'd left it that way earlier. I locked the front door and told everyone about the skeleton guy. Most brushed it off as some random crasher. I tried to laugh with them, pretending I wasn't unsettled, but something in my gut stayed heavy. As midnight came, the party thinned. Drunk guests stumbled out into the cold, their laughter fading down the street. My best friend Vinny stayed to help clean. We packed bottles into trash bags, wiped counters, the music still faintly looping from the speaker. By 1, everyone was gone. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the fridge. I brushed my teeth, changed into sweats, and went downstairs to hang with Vinny. We opened YouTube, laughing at stupid clips. My 14-year-old sister was asleep upstairs. She hadn't come near the party, and we heard it. Footsteps, slow, careful. I paused the video. "You hear that?" Vinny whispered. "Yeah, it wasn't just one step. It was a rhythm like someone was pacing." I waited, expecting my sister to walk to the bathroom, but her door never opened. Something wasn't right. I stood up, my heartbeat sinking with those faint, deliberate creaks. When I got to her room and peeked inside, she was sound asleep. The moonlight through the window lit her face. She hadn't moved. So who was walking upstairs? I turned toward my parents' room. The door was slightly open. My breath caught. I was sure I'd shut it. I stepped closer, pushing the door slowly, just enough to look in. The darkness swallowed most of the room. But as I started to back away, I saw movement through the crack. A tall, still shape. Painted bones glimmering faintly in the dark. He was standing right there. My pulse thundered in my ears. I closed the door silently, every nerve screaming at me to run, but I didn't. Not yet. I forced myself to breathe, then turned and went back downstairs, one step at a time. "Vinny," I whispered, voice shaking. "He's here," the guy in the skeleton suit. Then silence swallowed everything. Vinny's face drained of color. He reached for his phone instantly, whispering, calling 911. "Quiet," I hissed, grabbing his arm. "He's upstairs." The operator's voice came through faintly as Vinny explained there was an intruder. My mind raced, every door, every window. How had he gotten back in? I crept toward the stairs, heart hammering so hard it hurt. I had to get my sister. Each step felt endless. The shadows seemed thicker now, heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. I slipped into my sister's room, shook her gently. Hey, wake up," I whispered. "You have to be quiet, okay?" She blinked, confused, but saw my expression and didn't speak. I could feel her heart beat through her hand, fast, trembling. We tiptoed out together, moving like ghosts down the hall. From behind my parents' door came a faint scrape metal on wood. He was in their closet. My mind flashed to my dad's safe, bolted to the floor. He knew about it. He knew. We hurried down the stairs, each step threatening to betray us with a creak. When we reached the living room, Vinny was by the back door, phone still at his ear. "Police are on their way," he mouthed. We slipped outside into the cold night. The grass was wet, the air biting against our skin. I guided my sister through the side yard, across the driveway, and toward our neighbor's porch. We rang the bell 3 times before Mr. Hutchins opened the door in his robe, eyes wide as we stumbled inside. The moment the door shut, I felt my knees give out. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't stop them. It took the police less than 10 minutes to arrive, but by then, he was gone. They searched every room, every closet. My parents' bedroom window was open, curtains fluttering in the wind. The latch was broken clean off. Inside, the closet door gaped open. The safe had deep scratches across the metal, like someone had tried prying it from the floor. One of the officers said it looked like an attempted burglary, probably someone who knew we'd be distracted that night. But that didn't explain the rest. No one saw him leave. No footprints outside. No signs of forced entry on any door. He just vanished. When my parents came home, they were furious. Not just at the party, but at the fear in my sister's eyes. The police left, taking their notes and photos. We were told to lock up and stay alert. But that night, long after everyone was in bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment I saw him through the crack of that door, how he stood perfectly still, watching. The way his breathing never moved the fabric. The way he walked, slow and silent, like he wasn't even human. I went to check the front door again, just for peace of mind. The lock was fine. But on the glass, barely visible, was the faint outline of a handprint. Long fingers, pale smudges, bone-white dust. Weeks later, my dad had a security system installed. Cameras everywhere. But one night, reviewing footage after an alert, he called me into his office. "There's something weird," he said, frowning at the screen. The motion camera had triggered at 3:11 a.m. The front door, barely visible through the porch light, was a tall figure, still unmoving, black and white. Bones, then static. Since then, the doorbell camera goes off randomly. It's always around 3 a.m. Always nothing there. But sometimes, if you pause the video at just the right frame, you can see the faint reflection of painted bones in the glass. He's still looking for that safe. Or maybe for me. Would you dare throw another Halloween party in that house? I still remember that Halloween night like it branded itself into my brain. I was 15 my last year trick-or-treating, and I wanted it to feel like some kind of farewell to childhood. My mom didn't mind that I was pushing it one last time. She even baked cookies and let my friends crash in the newly finished basement. The place smelled like fresh paint and carpet glue, that sterile newness that somehow made it feel off. The basement was long and narrow, a single hallway leading to the man cave we'd claimed for the night. The light switch in the hall didn't work, so every trip through it meant walking through a black tunnel, guided only by memory. It was perfect for horror movie night. Around 11, Davis, Zach, and I finished Scream and queued up Paranormal Activity. I was trying to act casual, but truthfully, that broken hallway light already had my nerves humming. About 30 seconds into the movie, the motion light in the backyard flicked on. The glow washed through the basement window, killing the mood entirely. I groaned and waited for it to time out. 30 seconds later, it clicked off, and then on again. "Dude, what's making it do that?" Davis asked. I shrugged. "Maybe raccoons?" The light turned off, and back on. My annoyance started curling into unease. Music, low-tension drone building softly. Finally, I got up. "Let's check it out." We crept upstairs and stood by the sliding glass door, peering into the darkness. The motion light was off now, leaving the yard in heavy black silence. No wind, no movement. Just the faint sound of our own breathing. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. We laughed it off and went back downstairs, ditching the movie for our phones. Eventually, one by one, they passed out. I stayed awake, thumbs scrolling, screen glow painting the ceiling, when the motion light blinked on again. My chest tightened. 4 times now. I tried telling myself it was just kids playing around. But the longer I stared at that glow through the window, the more wrong it felt. I finally went upstairs, looked again. Nothing. Empty yard, silent street. Still, that feeling of being watched followed me back down. I barely slept. Halloween day came fast. Sugar, laughter, the usual chaos. I almost forgot about the night before. Almost, my girlfriend Amber met me and the guys. All of us dressed up like idiots, bags already half full of candy. But in the back of my mind, something kept scratching that unease I couldn't name. It was late when it happened. We were nearing the end of our route, the neighborhood dim and quiet. Amber suddenly yelped, clutching her arm. "What happened?" I asked. "Something hit me," she said, her voice trembling. A rock lay near her shoe. I turned, and there he was. A man stood about 15 feet behind us, tall, motionless, wearing a clown mask. That was the year of the clown sightings. People dressing up, scaring kids. I wanted to believe that's all it was. "Get lost," I shouted. He didn't move, his head tilted slightly, as if studying us. Something about the way he stood, shoulders too still, breathing too calm, made my stomach twist. The rest of his clothes weren't even a costume, his jeans and a dark hoodie. We turned away, pretending it was fine, but I could feel him watching us until we turned the corner. Oh, that was it for the night. We went home early, said goodbye to the guys, and Amber and I went down to the basement. The man cave felt safer, familiar. She wanted to finish Paranormal Activity. Halfway through, the lights flickered and died. I checked my phone. No storm alerts, no rain, no wind. Just calm. I told Amber to stay put, but she refused. Her voice trembled. "Not staying down here alone." So we climbed upstairs together, our phone flashlights slicing through the dark. The generator was outside behind the house. I hated that realization the second it hit. The motion light didn't come on when we stepped outside. Not a sound except the crickets. The air felt heavier than it should have. Then I heard it, a twig snapping. Amber and I froze, staring toward the tree line. Nothing moved but that feeling, the one from last night, came roaring back. My gut screamed to go back inside. Turned, and that's when I saw him, standing by the shed. Same mask, same stillness. We locked eyes, if you can call it that, through a mask. And then he lunged forward. He sprinted at us. Amber screamed. I slammed the sliding door shut just in time. Then, silence swallowed everything. We bolted down into the basement, hearts beating so loud I thought he could hear us. Amber hid behind the bar, shaking, while I pressed my ear toward the stairwell. I realized something horrible. I never locked the back door. We froze, that sound unmistakable. He was inside. Amber's hands fumbled with her phone, trembling as she typed out a 911 message because she couldn't speak. I whispered for her to stay quiet. Every second stretched like it was being pulled apart. Then the basement door creaked open. The sound of his steps came down the hall, one by one, soft but heavy. The air turned thick. Every breath tasted metallic, like fear had a flavor. He stopped, right outside the man cave. The silence was unbearable. I covered Amber's mouth as she stifled a sob. Then, another step. Closer, I grabbed a beer bottle from behind the bar. Ridiculous, I know, but it was all I had. For a moment, there was nothing but quiet. My mind raced. So maybe he was waiting, listening. Maybe he could hear us breathing. Then sirens wailed faintly outside, far off but growing closer. The clown turned his head slightly, as if considering what to do. I decided that was my chance. I lunged from behind the bar, swinging the bottle as hard as I could, but my foot caught the edge of the rug. I fell forward. The bottle grazed his mask, barely making him flinch. He stared down at me, that blank painted smile inches from my face. I swear, I heard breathing from inside the mask, slow, steady, to calm. He didn't attack, didn't move, just stared for several long, impossible seconds, and then turned, bolting up the stairs as the sirens grew louder. The back door slammed. I ran after him, shouting for help, throwing open the door to see flashing red lights painting the trees. The officers ran around the yard, flashlights cutting through the dark. But he was gone. They searched the woods. Nothing. No footprints. Like he'd dissolved into the night. Amber sat trembling on the couch, whispering that she'd seen him standing by the tree line. But when the officers checked, no one was there. They filed a report, said they'd patrol for the next few nights, but deep down, I knew. He wasn't some prankster. For weeks, I couldn't sleep in the basement. Every flicker of the motion light sent chills down my spine. Sometimes it would click on in the middle of the night, and I'd stare at it from my window upstairs, half expecting that mask to appear again. Then one night, weeks later, I looked out at 3 a.m. and saw the motion light glowing faintly through the trees. Not bright like before. Dimmer, like it was fading. I stared at it until it finally went out, and just before it did, I swear I saw the faint white shape of that mask reflected in the glass. People told me it was probably just trauma, a prank gone too far, but I can shake that feeling that he was something else entirely, something that wanted to be seen. Amber and I stopped talking about it. We just moved on. At least that's what we told ourselves. But every Halloween since then, around midnight, the motion light still flicks on once. Always once. Always for exactly 30 seconds. Then darkness. And I can't help but wonder, was he ever really gone? Music, deep ambient fade, faint wind, door creak closing out. Would you dare return to this place? It was Halloween Eve, 1995, the kind of night that hummed with quiet menace. The sky over Greenbelt, Maryland, was the color of ash, and the road home stretched before us like a dark ribbon winding through the woods. My brother kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting casually on the window, fingers drumming along to the faint rhythm of an old song on the radio. Remember the way the air smelled, damp leaves, faint gasoline, and the metallic chill that always came before rain. We weren't talking much, It's just the usual small-town silence that settles between siblings when the night grows long. The headlights cut through patches of fog, illuminating the double yellow lines that seemed to pulse and twist as we drove. Then, out of nowhere, the rearview mirror caught a glimmer, two blindingly bright circles racing toward us. At first, I thought it was just another car speeding, but something felt off. Those lights weren't steady. They shimmered, like they were flickering through water. My brother frowned. "What the hell?" he muttered, tapping the brake lightly. The car behind us drew closer, impossibly fast, until the entire cabin filled with its white glare. And then it was beside us. It wasn't a modern car, not even close. It was an old black sedan, maybe from the 30s or 40s, polished but aged, floating just inches above the asphalt. Its engine made no sound, just silence and the hum of our own tires beneath us. My heart hammered as I turned my head, and that's when I saw them. 4 figures inside, 2 young men and 2 young women. All of them pale as wax, dressed in old-fashioned farm clothes. Their eyes didn't blink. Their faces looked washed out, drained of life. The girl in the passenger seat turned toward us slowly, unnaturally, and smiled. It wasn't kind. It was the kind of smile that said, "We see you." Then she turned back, her face vanishing into the glow of the headlights. The 2 in the back seat just stared, motionless. My brother whispered, "You're gonna hit someone. They're on the wrong side." But the black car drifted into the opposite lane, right into oncoming traffic. We both braced for the collision, but the cars coming toward it didn't react. No horns, no swerves. It was as if they couldn't see it at all. The black sedan glided right through them like smoke. And then it was gone. My brother pulled over, his hands shaking. Did you see that?" I nodded, unable to speak. The night around us felt heavier, pressing against the windows. What? The forest on either side of the road swayed like it was breathing. When we got home, Mom asked why we looked pale. We didn't tell her, how could we? Who would believe we saw ghosts on a back road? Weeks went by, then months. Life went on. School, work, ordinary routines. But that image of the car, it clung to me. Sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I could still see that girl's smile hovering in the dark. 2 years later, Halloween 1997, we were on that same road again. I remember laughing nervously as we passed the same bend. "You think we'll see it again?" I joked, though my voice cracked. The fog was thick that night. My brother slowed down, glancing in the mirror. I followed his gaze and my stomach dropped. 2 white circles of light appeared behind us, distant at first, then closer. Closer. "No," I whispered. "It can't be." The old black sedan emerged from the mist exactly as before, headlights blazing, gliding soundlessly beside us. The same 4 faces, the same smile, the same eyes locked on ours. Then silence swallowed everything. The car vanished like smoke dissolving into night air. My brother slammed the brakes, tires squealing against the asphalt. But when we looked around, nothing. No headlights, no taillights. Just the long, empty stretch of road and the echo of our own breathing. We sat there for what felt like hours, neither of us daring to move. Finally, my brother restarted the engine. "We're not telling anyone this time," he said flatly. "They'll think we're crazy." But that wasn't the end. A year later, minus 1998, my brother was driving that same road alone. He called me afterward, his voice trembling. "Pam," he whispered, "they're still there. They did it again." He said it happened the same way. The lights, the floating car, the faces. Only this time, the girl in the passenger seat didn't just smile. She mouthed something, one word. "Stay." After that night, he changed. He started waking up at 3 a.m., sweating, insisting he could hear an engine idling outside his window. I'd look out, nothing. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But the smell of exhaust sometimes lingered in the air, faint and sour. By Halloween 1999, I'd moved out, tried to forget, but you can't bury something that feels unfinished. That year, when he didn't answer my calls, I drove down that same Maryland road myself. The trees loomed overhead, black and skeletal. Fog clung to the ground like it was alive. I saw tire marks on the shoulder, fresh ones. My stomach twisted. Then ahead, 2 faint orbs appeared through the haze. The black car. It was parked this time, dead still, headlights dimmed to a ghostly glow. I slowed down, my fingers trembling against the steering wheel. Inside, I could see the same four figures, but there was a fifth now, in the back seat. My brother. He turned his head toward me, eyes hollow, skin pale. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Then the girl in the passenger seat smiled again, wider, almost proud, and the car began to roll backward, fading into the fog until it was gone. I screamed his name, but the sound died in the mist. The road was empty. My phone wouldn't call out, just static. The air grew unbearably cold, freezing my breath mid-syllable, and then I heard it. Faint laughter, distant, fading down the road. That was the last time anyone saw him. The police called it an accident, said he probably swerved off somewhere, but no wreck was ever found. No tracks, no debris, just silence, and that endless road through the woods. Sometimes I still drive past that stretch hoping to see a sign, anything. But deep down, I know. If I see that black car again, it won't be just passing by. It'll stop. And there'll be a place waiting for me in the back seat. You think I should go back just once to see if he's still out there? Would you dare return to this road?